And then the storm came. It was a Saturday morning. The Sharma household had assembled for Kamini's monthly lunch, a ritual no one missed, unless they wanted war. Vikram was there. Reema was there. Arjun was there. Maya was there. Kamini Sharma sat at the head of the dining table like a high court judge. The lunch was being served. Dal makhani was being passed around. Reema was complaining about a designer boutique in Knightsbridge that had refused to customize her wedding anarkali in time. Maya smiled. She poured water for everyone. She served the salad. She looked calm. She looked beautiful. She looked like the perfect daughter-in-law the family had always taken her for. Then, at 1:47 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Vikram's phone started buzzing. Reema's phone started buzzing. A young man in a gray blazer walked in holding a large brown envelope. He looked around the dining room. He looked at Vikram. He looked at Reema. "Mr. Vikram Sharma?" "Yes." "Delivery for you, sir. From Lloyd's Bank, Wembley High Road branch. You are hereby notified that your car finance account 9988-205 has been flagged for systemic financial irregularity. The bank's internal compliance team has frozen the disbursement of all future installments, pending a formal review. You are required to appear before the regional manager on Monday at 10 o'clock with full documentation." Vikram went pale. Then another young man walked in. This one was holding 2 envelopes, one for Vikram, one for Reema. "Ma'am, this is a notice of complaint filed with the Metropolitan Police at Southall. Reference 451/2023. You are being formally summoned for interview under caution on Monday at 3 o'clock. You may bring legal representation. Failure to attend will result in arrest." Reema's hand went to her throat. Kamini dropped her spoon. Arjun looked at his wife. Maya kept her face perfectly, beautifully, completely neutral. "Something happened." Reema whispered. "Something happened," Maya said softly. "I think you should both sit down." What followed was chaos. There was shouting. There was denial. There was Vikram grabbing Reema's wrist and dragging her into the bedroom. There was Kamini shouting at Arjun for not controlling his wife. There was Arjun, for the first time in his life, looking at his mother and saying absolutely nothing. He just looked. Then Maya stood up. She took the brown envelope from her own bag, the original one with the CCTV footage, the original partnership deed, the original complaint, and put it on the table. She said, "Mum, with your permission. Arjun, please look at this with me." She played the CCTV footage on her phone. The dining room went absolutely silent. Reema's voice, captured in full, broadcast through the small speakers. "Brother, send next month's installment OTP to Maya's Studio's registered number." "Yes, the number is with me. It's a family arrangement." Vikram's face twisted. Reema cried out, "This is private. This is from Maya's phone." "Yes," Maya said quietly, "because I am the owner of Maya's studio. I have been the de facto owner since the day I started it. But my brother-in-law's wife has been using my business, my money, my trade name, to pay for Vikram's BMW for 14 months. £2,200 every month. £30,800 in total." She paused. "I did not file this case against the family. I filed it against the people who used my name as if it was theirs to use. So I am asking each one of you very politely, please explain to me how a sister-in-law can sit at my desk, on my chair, beside my laptop, and pay her husband's car finance installment out of my boutique's business account without me ever knowing about it." She looked around the table. "If somebody at this table knows the answer, please speak now. If nobody does, then we will all have to live with the answer the High Court gives." The room was absolutely silent. Vikram looked at his mother. He looked at Reema. He looked at Arjun. "Mum," he said slowly, "did you know?" Kamini opened her mouth. She closed it. She opened it again. I did not know the details, she finally said. But I knew Reema was using the boutique's goodwill for. For what, Mum? Arjun asked. It was the second time he had spoken in his mother's presence in his entire adult life. And both times, it had been Maya who had given him the courage. Kamini said nothing. Vikram stood up. He was shaking. Maya, he said after a long moment, we can fix this. We can pay you back. Vikram, Maya said, I am not asking for money. I am asking for one thing. Just one. What? I want Reema out of this house. And I want this household to recognize in writing that Maya's studio is mine. Not yours. Not Mum's. Mine. The room was silent. Vikram looked at his mother. Kamini looked at her older son. Arjun looked at his wife. Maya looked at all of them. She looked at them the way a queen looks at her court when they have finally failed her. With grace. With pain. With a steel that no longer needed to be hidden. That is not your call to make, Kamini said. This is my house. Then I will leave this house, Mum, Maya said. With my husband. And I will keep Maya's studio. And I will never bother this family again. The choice, Mum, is yours. Not mine. Kamini closed her eyes. She had spent 61 years of her life as the daughter-in-law of a powerful man. She had earned her authority through 3 decades of careful obedience. She had never once asked her husband for a single pound she hadn't earned through some service, cooking, praying, raising sons. She had not realized, until this exact moment, that her daughter-in-law Maya was a mirror of her own younger self. Maya had worked. Maya had earned. Maya had done what Kamini had once done, but with a sewing machine instead of a kitchen, with a boutique instead of a hearth. And now Maya was standing in front of her with a ledger of grievances. A list of services rendered. A claim to dignity that Kamini herself had once held in her own hands 4 decades ago, before she had become so comfortable she had forgotten. Kamini opened her eyes. She looked at Reema. You have been paying your husband's car finance from my daughter-in-law's business account, she said quietly. This has been happening in my house, under my roof, for 14 months. Either I did not see it, which means I am blind, or I saw it and I closed my eyes, which means I am something worse. She paused. In either case, you are no longer welcome as a member of this household. Reema's mouth opened. Mum, I said, Kamini said, you are no longer welcome as a member of this household. Vikram stood up. He looked at his mother. He looked at Reema. He looked at Maya. Maya, he said, I am sorry. I did not ask for an apology, Maya replied. And you cannot give me anything that the situation requires anyway. Then what? Ask your wife to leave the house, or I take my husband and I leave the house. Those are the only 2 options on the table tonight. Vikram looked at Reema. There was no love left in his eyes. There was only shame. There was only the dawning, sickening realization that the woman who had taught him how to save face was the same woman who had cost him his brother's wife's trust. He put his hand on Reema's arm. Come, get your things. Reema screamed. You are throwing me out of my own house? We have been married for 5 years. You have been eating my sister-in-law's money, Vikram said, to pay for my car. And you never asked me first. You never told me. You never once thought about what would happen if Maya found out. Now you have your answer. Now come. Reema looked at Kamini. Mum. Kamini did not look at her. Reema looked at Arjun. Arjun did not look at her. Reema looked at Maya. Maya looked back. There was no cruelty in her eyes. There was no glee. There was only a woman who had been wounded, who had refused to bleed, who had stitched her wounds shut with her own hands, and who was now standing in her own hallway, asking for what had always been hers. Reema turned and walked to the bedroom. She came out after 15 minutes with 2 suitcases and a small handbag. Vikram walked her out of the house. He left her at the gate with her suitcases. He did not hug her. He did not kiss her. He did not say good luck. Come back, he said, when Maya's money is returned, with interest, and when you can prove to me that you have not committed any other kind of fraud that I do not yet know about. Vikram. Goodbye, Reema. He closed the front gate. He came back inside. He did not speak for the rest of the day. Within 24 hours of Reema's eviction, Maya Sharma did 5 things. She updated Maya's studio's VAT registration to reflect her 100% ownership. She filed for a new trade license in her own name, removing Arjun's signature from all official documents. Arjun signed willingly this time. He had finally started reading what he was signing. She dismissed the 2 assistants Reema had personally hired and trained. They had been feeding Reema information about Maya's client list for years. She hired a new junior, a young woman named Sana, the daughter of a tailor from Hackney, who knew how to drape a sari, who knew how to keep secrets, and who had fierce loyalties stitched into her bones. She took Arjun aside and had a 3-hour conversation with him in the parking lot of a Tesco Extra in Harrow, sitting in their old Toyota, alone, with the windows up and the cold air of a November evening pressing against the glass. Arjun, she said, tell me, what are you afraid of? He looked at her. Afraid of what? Of this. Of me. Of what it would look like if you stood beside me in front of your mother. Of what would happen if you told your brother that his wife had stolen from mine. Of what it would feel like if you no longer were the dutiful middle son who never caused any trouble. He was quiet for a long moment. Maya, he finally said, I was wrong. I was wrong to be silent when I should have spoken. I was wrong to be comfortable when you were uncomfortable. I was wrong to call my brother's car finance installment a family arrangement when I did not even know it was happening. I was wrong to sign papers without reading them. I was wrong to leave you alone to fight a war that was partly mine. I don't want apologies, Arjun. I want partnership. I want you to be my partner, not my protector. Protectors stand in front of you. Partners stand beside you. He nodded slowly. Okay, he said. Partner. Partner. He reached out and held her hand. Her fingers were stained with thread dye. He held them anyway. He had always held them. He just hadn't understood what he was holding. Maya's studio opened in its new location on a cold morning in December 2023, a real shopfront on Kensington Church Street, the kind of address that gets you noticed. The sign was hand-painted by Maya's mother, who had come up from Leicester for the opening. The window display featured 6 pieces, a bridal lehenga, a sherwani, a flowing anarkali for a mehendi, a matching kurta set, a contemporary blouse, and a small dress for a 5-year-old girl. Inside, the shop smelled of fresh cotton and lavender sachets. The fitting room had a small framed quote Maya had found in an old bookshop on Charing Cross Road. It read, "Measure twice, cut once, live thrice." The opening was quiet. There were no journalists, no celebrities, only family and clients. Kamini Sharma came. She wore a simple cotton sari. She stood at the back of the shop. She did not speak to anyone for the first 20 minutes. She just looked at her daughter-in-law. Then she walked over. Maya, she said. Maya flinched slightly. Kamini had always called her you. This was the first time she had used her name. Yes, Mum. You built this shop with your own hands. It is not mine. It is not Arjun's. It is yours. And she paused. And I was wrong many times, in many small ways, for many years. Maya looked at her mother-in-law. There were tears in both their eyes. Mum, Maya said, you never opened a single fraud case against me. You never stole from me. You never used my business account. You were wrong in the way that the weather is wrong, not on purpose, but with consequence. And consequences, once they are seen, can be corrected. Kamini looked down at her own hands. They were old, wrinkled. They had cooked 10,000 meals. They had lifted her 2 sons as babies. They had bent in prayer for 30 years. They had submitted, over and over, in the same small ways, to her own mother-in-law, who had once ruled this very household with similar hands. "From today," she said, "this shop belongs to my daughter-in-law. And if anyone ever questions that, they will have to answer me first." It was not an apology. It was a certification. She left a small silver coin under the cash counter, a tradition her own mother had done when a daughter first opened a shop of her own. Maya kept it there. To this day, it is still there. 3 years later, Maya's studio is no longer just a shop. It is a brand. 3 boutique branches, one in Kensington, one in Southall, one in Birmingham. 48 employees, of whom 44 are women. Annual turnover of £2.5 million. Featured last autumn in British Vogue. Praised publicly by a Hollywood costume designer who has put Maya's work on 3 A-list actresses for red carpet events. Maya has never forgotten the lesson. Every new employee, on her first day, is told one story at orientation in a small room with photographs hanging on the wall of every key moment from that October 2 years ago. "Before we begin," Maya says to each new starter, "we want to tell you why this building exists. It exists because one woman refused to be a servant. It exists because one woman refused to be quiet. It exists because one woman stood up one Tuesday morning and said, 'This is mine.' And that is what we want for every woman who walks through these doors. Yours can be yours too." Arjun is now the Chief Operating Officer. He runs operations, marketing, partnerships. He is also a man who has learned, very publicly and very painfully, what it means to stand beside his wife rather than standing between her and the world. He speaks at industry panels about supporting spouses in family businesses. He cries a little when he tells audiences the story of the first time Maya looked him in the eye and said the 4 words that changed his life. Just partner. Not protector. Just partner. Vikram and Reema are divorced. She returned the £30,800 with interest, paid in full, 2 years ago. Vikram has remarried to a quietly brilliant pharmacist from Luton who has never once lost a friendship over a finance installment. He has reached out to Maya twice. She has politely accepted his apology, his check, and his presence at 2 of Arjun's milestone events. She has never once invited Reema back into her life in any form. Old wounds heal, but they leave scars that do not forget. Kamini Sharma has softened. Not out of surrender, out of recognition. She has started calling Maya daily. She has started calling her Maya, daughter. She has started teaching her granddaughter 1 stitch a week, the way her own mother once taught her. Maya's boutique is called Maya Studio. Maya, in Hindi, means illusion. In another sense, the name holds both meanings: the magic of making something out of nothing, and the quiet pride of a mother who names her craft after herself. On a quiet Thursday evening in the late autumn of 2026, Maya sits alone in the back of her Kensington flagship. She has just closed the shop. The lights are dim. The mannequins are covered in soft cloth for the night. The faint smell of fresh fabric hangs in the air. She takes out an old green curtain, the same one that used to divide her work corner from the family living room in the Southall house all those years ago. She folds it gently. She places it in a small wooden box. On the box, in delicate gold leaf, she has painted 3 words. The first curtain. She thinks back. She thinks of the green curtain. She thinks of Reema's voice saying, "Family arrangement, brother, send the OTP again." She thinks of Kamini Sharma's expression when the truth poured out across the dining table on that Saturday afternoon. Was it surprise? Or was it finally, at last, recognition? Or perhaps it was the moment Kamini realized, for the first time in 61 years of life, that she was not the only daughter-in-law who had ever stitched a kingdom out of silence in that house. She had done it with a kitchen and a prayer room. Maya had done it with a sewing machine and a corner. But the pain had been the same. And the triumph was the same. Maya opens the lid of the box. She places inside it the small silver coin from her mother-in-law, the one left under the cash counter, along with the original CCTV clip saved to a single brass USB stick, and one small piece of embroidery. The piece is simple. A single gold thread stitched into deep red velvet, in careful cursive. 3 short sentences. My effort. My name. My choice. She closes the box. She places it under the cash counter, beside the silver coin. She turns off the lights. She locks the front door of her boutique. She walks out into the cold London night. The street is quiet except for the distant echo of a wedding band playing somewhere in Southall, 6 miles away. The same band that played at Reema and Vikram's wedding 5 years ago. The same community that once whispered about Maya behind her back. The same Southall that tomorrow morning will see Maya Studios' newest collection go live on its website at 9 o'clock sharp. Maya does not look back. She has never needed to, because her hands have always known where they were going. Her fingers still run the way her grandmother's did. Quietly, certainly, like birds cutting through still air. But now, for the first time in her life, she flies exactly where she wants to. And she does not ask the storm for permission. She called her accountant, a careful man named Mr. Khanna in Wembley. Maya Beta, Mr. Khanna said carefully, after phoning her back 2 hours later. This is not your loan. But the auto-debit is hooked to your business account because someone added it as a standing instruction using your registered mobile number. They may have had access to your phone for OTP authentication at some point. Who? Maya asked. I cannot say without more investigation. But I can tell you this much. The loan is in Vikram Sharma's name. The vehicle is the BMW 3 Series registration number LM65KHT. Maya felt her blood turn to ice water. Vikram, Reema's husband, Arjun's elder brother, the golden child, the man whose BMW she had been unknowingly financing for 14 months. Thanks. She closed her eyes. The room was silent, except for the steady hum of her grandmother's singer. For the first time in 6 years of marriage, Maya felt the slow, burning weight of betrayal land on her chest. Not in a sharp strike, but in a heavy, suffocating way. Like a blanket soaked in cold water slowly pulling her under. She had been paying for someone else's luxury. She had been losing £2,200 every month, money that should have been her savings, her daughter's nursery fees, her own safety net, all of it silently bleeding out of her boutique to fund her brother-in-law's sports car. She did not cry. She did not scream. She did not call Arjun. She made tea. She poured it. She sat down. And she began to think. 6 days after that Tuesday, Maya decided to test a theory. She went to the boutique at the unusual hour of 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday, right when she knew Reema usually visited to check on things after Kamini's lunch. She found Reema sitting at Maya's desk again. Reema's phone was connected to Maya's laptop by a small white cable. Reema was on a call that, to a casual listener, sounded like any other family conversation. Just send the next installment OTP to Maya's Studios registered number, Reema was saying into the phone. It's fine, it's a family thing. The OTP line stays with me, no problem at all. And Maya stood at the green curtain. She did not move. She did not breathe. Reema ended the call. She looked up. She saw Maya. She smiled. Oh, hi. You're in early today. I just popped in to sign a couple of invoices for Vikram. Maya smiled gently. Of course. Tea? And inside, she was photographing the scene with her eyes. The chair, the desk, the laptop showing the Lloyd's banking app. The framed photo of Vikram's BMW that Reema kept on the corner of Maya's desk, the photo of the very car Maya was unknowingly paying for. Maya left the room. She went to the kitchen. She made tea. She put 2 spoons of sugar in Reema's tea, exactly the way Reema liked it. She smiled. She served. She kept her hands steady. That night, At 1:30 in the morning, she went back to the back room. She pressed the SD card icon on her old CCTV recorder. She scrolled back to that Saturday afternoon. She pressed play. The footage was grainy but clear. Reema sitting at Maya's desk. Reema's phone in her left hand. The Lloyd's banking app visible on the screen. Reema's voice, recorded in full and unmistakable. "Brother, send next month's installment OTP to Maya's studio's registered number." "Yes, the number is with me. That's no problem. It's a family arrangement." The bank officer, "Ma'am, technically this constitutes misuse of business banking credentials." "Reema, it's family things, brother. The daughter-in-law herself has given me permission." Maya's hands trembled. She paused the footage. She rewound. She played it again. She felt the strange, unfamiliar sensation of a woman hearing her own destruction explained in someone else's voice. She saved the footage to 3 separate hard drives. She put one under her sewing machine. She put one in a sealed envelope and posted it to her mother in Leicester. She put one in a safety deposit box at the Lloyd's branch near Harrow. She had 3 pieces of evidence. 3 copies. 3 safeties. Then she went to the mirror in her room. She looked at her own reflection. A 30-year-old woman with tired eyes, a threadbare nightgown, and the small gold chain that was her only piece of jewelry. She whispered to the mirror, very quietly, "You did this to me. I am going to do something back." The next morning, Maya called Rajan Malhotra. Rajan was not a friend. He was not family. Rajan was a man she had met one rainy evening at a London textile trade show. He owned a small but respected Mayfair law firm that specialized in family business restructuring. He wore gray suits with white shirts. He never raised his voice. He was in his mid-50s, twice divorced, and had 2 daughters he never saw. He listened to Maya's plan on the phone for 15 minutes without interrupting. Then he said, "Maya, I will help you. But I will tell you once this is war. Once we start, it gets loud. Are you ready for loud?" "Yes." "Good. I will be at your boutique by 4 o'clock. He came. He brought a junior colleague named Sana and a chartered accountant named Vikrant. They sat in the small office behind the boutique for 4 hours. They reviewed every invoice. They traced every transaction between Maya's studio and Vikram's personal accounts. They cross-referenced every standing instruction on the business current account. By the end of the meeting, Maya had a 47-page document with a clear title, "Unauthorized Use of Maya's Studio's Trade Identity and Banking Credentials by Mrs. Reema Sharma ne Bajaj, spouse of Mr. Vikram Sharma, for the purpose of siphoning £30,800 in BMW finance installment payments." Rajan said, "We have 3 options. 1. We pursue criminal charges under the Fraud Act 2006 and the Computer Misuse Act. That will result in arrest, prosecution, possible custodial sentence. 2. We file a civil suit in the High Court of Justice for damages and an injunction. Or 3. He paused. 3? 3, Rajan said with a half-smile. "We do what you actually want to do." "What do I actually want to do?" "You want to take back what's yours and not have to see that woman's face every Diwali. You want to be able to walk into every family wedding without feeling like a thief. You want to make her the one who is thrown out, not you." Maya nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Let's do 3. The plan unfolded in 3 careful stages. Stage 1 was disconnection. Maya went to the Lloyd's branch on Wednesday morning with Mr. Khanna and her company's stamp. She filled out the form to remove every standing instruction from Maya's studio's current account. She added her own mobile number back as the primary contact for OTPs. She also submitted a written complaint flagging the unauthorized activity on her registered number. The bank officer, a tired woman named Mrs. Sharma, looked at the file. She looked at Maya. She looked at the file again. "Mrs. Sharma," Maya said, "this is a family matter. Please just process the changes." Mrs. Sharma nodded. She processed them. She stamped them. She updated the records. As Maya walked out of the bank, a single thought crossed her mind. Reema would not be able to pay Vikram's next BMW installment through her boutique's account anymore. The next installment, on the 5th, would fail. The car would no longer be Maya's problem. But that was only the beginning. Stage 2 was the asset grab. Arjun Sharma had been Maya's husband for 6 years. He had no direct role in the boutique other than emotional support and the occasional school run. But according to a clause both of them had signed when the boutique was first registered as a partnership in 2020, an arrangement Reema herself had insisted upon at the time, claiming it was for tax purposes, Arjun held a 51% share of Maya's studio. Arjun had signed those papers without reading them. He trusted Reema by marriage, and he trusted his wife on principle. He had never imagined that one of those two trusts would betray the other. Maya knew Arjun's signature. She knew the original partnership deed was in a locked steel cabinet in the corner of the bedroom, under a pile of old insurance documents. She waited until Arjun left for work on Thursday morning. She opened the cabinet. She took out the deed. She did not forge anything. She called him. "Arjun, I need one thing from you urgently, for the VAT registration correction." "What thing?" "The partnership deed. I need a copy attested by the bank, and I need you to sign a few routine confirmations." "Why?" "Just come home during lunch and sign them, please." Arjun came home at 1 o'clock. He ate lunch. He signed the new transfer deed without fully understanding what he was signing. He trusted Maya. He had always trusted Maya. But he was also the same man who had been silent when his mother moved Maya's boutique out of the prayer room. He was the same man who had nodded when Reema borrowed Maya's good fabric for her sister's wedding. He was the same man who had said sure when his wife had been silently turned into the family tailor. Arjun had been a good man in moments, but he had been a silent man in every moment that had actually mattered. Now, his silence was about to cost him, and it was about to benefit her. Stage 3 was the loan transfer and the official report. The car finance agreement was in Vikram's name. The monthly installment was being paid from Maya's studio. The connection was technical, deliberate, and hidden. But now Maya had her account cleaned. She had the CCTV footage. She had the original partnership deed. She had 51% of the boutique's ownership in her own name, signed by Arjun 2 days earlier. So, she filed a civil suit in the High Court of Justice. The petition was titled Maya's Studio Limited versus Vikram Sharma and Others Recovery of Unauthorized Funds and Injuncti. It was a wet Tuesday morning in October 2023 when Maya Sharma first realized that £308,000 had been quietly bleeding out of her life for 14 months without her knowing. She was alone in the back room of her mother-in-law's Southall house, behind the faded green curtain that separated her workspace from the family living room. The curtain smelled faintly of mothballs and incense, the 2 scents of her life since she had married into the Sharma family 3 years earlier. The numbers didn't lie, and they never did. The auto-debit on her boutique's Lloyd's business account had been charging £2,200 every month for 14 months, £30,800 in total. She had never opened that standing instruction. She had never signed any paper authorizing it. And yet, every month, like clockwork, the money left her account and went somewhere else. Maya closed the file. She poured herself a cup of tea. She did not cry. She did not shout. She simply sat down at her grandmother's old Singer sewing machine and began, very quietly, to think. But to understand how Maya Sharma came to that quiet Tuesday morning, you have to go back to the beginning. 6 years earlier, in the autumn of 2019, Maya Sharma was 22 years old. She was 2 months pregnant with her first child. She was £1,800 in debt. She had nothing but a Singer sewing machine her grandmother had left her in a will, a steel trunk full of old saris her mother had forgotten she owned, and a name she had stitched into the lining of every garment she made, Maya's Studio. She did not have a shop. She had a corner. In the back room of her mother-in-law Kamini Sharma's sprawling Southall Terrace house, behind the same faded green curtain she would later come to associate with her lowest moments, Maya worked 16 hours a day. Her fingers moved the way her grandmother's had moved, quick, certain, like birds cutting through still air. She could turn a torn silk sari into a wedding lehenga, suitable for a bride from a Belgravia family. She could take her mother's old cotton saris and remake them into evening dresses that Chelsea mothers posted about on Instagram with hashtags Maya did not even know existed. Shirts became flowing kurtas. Mother's old saris became daughter-in-law's wedding outfits. Discarded curtains became heirloom cushion covers that wealthy women from Hampstead drove all the way to Southall to collect personally. Within 2 years, she had built a reputation that stretched from Wembley to Harrow. The waiting list at her backroom boutique had grown to 4 months. Dressmakers in nearby Greenford and Hayes started sending their customers to her. A regular client named Sushma, who had worn only Maya's designs to every family wedding for 3 years running, had once told her, "If you ever open a real shop, I'll cut the ribbon myself." For Maya, behind that green curtain, the world had begun to shrink and expand at the same time. She had spent her youth invisible, a quiet daughter-in-law who helped her mother-in-law with the dishes while the men of the family discussed property prices and cricket. But in this corner, with her singer and her old trunk, she was becoming someone. Her hands had begun to remember things her mind had never been allowed to forget. Her husband, Arjun Sharma, watched her rise with a pride so quiet it could have been mistaken for indifference. He was the middle son in the Sharma family. His elder brother, Vikram, was the family's golden child, the one who drove a BMW 3 Series and was already being groomed to inherit the family's cash-and-carry wholesale business in Wembley. Their father, the late Raghunath Sharma, had died 4 years earlier of a heart attack at a temple in Neasden, leaving Kamini a wealthy widow with 2 sons, a sprawling house, and an iron will. Arjun was gentle. He worked in his brother's wholesale warehouse as a logistics manager. He brought his mother sweets on every festival, kissed Maya's forehead every night before bed, and never once raised his voice in their 6 years of marriage. But Arjun had one fatal flaw. He could not say no to his mother. When Kamini Sharma said jump, Arjun Sharma asked how high. When Kamini said your wife's boutique is taking up space that used to be my prayer room, Arjun moved Maya's sewing machine to the garage without discussion. When Kamini said your sister-in-law Reema needs help with a couple of her custom orders, why don't you ask Maya to do them at the boutique? Arjun simply nodded and said, "Sure, Mum," even though Maya lost 3 weeks of her own client work and £1,800 of revenue. Maya had learned early in her marriage that her husband loved her. She had also learned that his first loyalty was to the woman who had given birth to him. She didn't resent him for it. She simply accepted it as a part of the weather. Some women got rain, some women got drought. Some women had husbands who fought wars for them. Some women had husbands who asked the storm politely what it would like them to do. Maya had decided very early on that she would be the storm. She would simply stop asking for permission to be one. Reema Bahaj came into the Sharma household like a typhoon wrapped in silk. She had married Vikram 5 years earlier. She was tall, sharp-featured, with cheekbones that could cut glass and a smile that could warm a funeral home. She had that particular confidence that women inherit when they grow up watching their own mothers use money as a weapon. She was the daughter of a small-time property developer from Ilford, and she had been raised to understand one truth: money is never respected, only wielded. She did not like Maya for 3 reasons. The first reason was that Maya was more talented than her, and everyone in the family knew it. The second reason was that Maya was softer than her, and softness in Reema's world was always an invitation. The third reason was that Maya's boutique was bringing in real, traceable, tax-registered money, and Reema needed money more than anyone in the family knew. The BMW that Vikram drove to his warehouse every morning in Wembley had been bought with a wizardry of bank loans, false invoices, and 2 unregistered side businesses that Reema herself had set up. The car had cost £28,000 second-hand. The deposit had been £4,000. The monthly finance installment was £410. The loan was officially in Vikram's name. But every month, for 14 months and counting, that installment had been silently routed through Maya's studio, using false invoices for design consultation services that did not exist. For over a year, Reema had been quietly bleeding Maya's business dry. It started with small things. A request one February afternoon: "Tum, make me look fashionable for my sister's wedding, make me a lehenga." Maya had nodded happily. She'd always wanted a sister-in-law friend. Then it grew. A request for Vikram's office party, an embroidered waistcoat set. Then Reema's sister's mehendi, 3 full outfits. Then Reema's best friend's reception in Ilford, another 4 outfits. Then a colleague's engagement, 2 outfits and a custom gift hamper. Then a cousin's baby shower, 3 kurtas, and on and on and on. Each request came wrapped in compliments. Each request was a small chain link in a cage Maya did not see being built around her. Reema was never rude about it. Reema was never demanding in a way that could be refused. Reema simply smiled, brought Maya tea, and said, "Thank you so much. You're so talented. The family is so lucky to have you. You are saving us so much money. You are such a good daughter-in-law." And Maya, who had grown up being told that a good daughter-in-law is measured by how invisible her own needs become, said yes to every single request. The way Kamini Sharma's house worked was simple. Everyone had a role. Everyone paid a tax. Kamini was the ultimate authority. Her word was the family constitution. Her two sons had grown up reading her moods the way sailors read the sea. A mother's frown was a storm. A mother's silence was worse. Arjun paid his tax by obedience. Vikram paid his tax by achievement. Maya paid her taxes with fabric. It started with saris for Kamini's birthdays, then saris for Kamini's friends, then entire outfits for every cousin's wedding and every friend's daughter-in-law, then monthly orders, sometimes twice a month, always free, always delivered with a smile. "You're such a talented tailor, dear," Kamini would say to her circle of temple friends. "My daughter-in-law stitches better than any shop in Southall. We're so lucky." And Maya would smile back, her lips pressed tight, her fingers already cutting patterns for the next free order. But the boutique was hers. Maya's studio was hers. She had built it with her hands, with her back pain, with her swollen ankles during pregnancy, with her tears on those late nights when Arjun snored softly beside her, and she stitched on until 2 a.m. for the next morning's delivery. So she tried to make it work. She took Reema's orders. She took Kamini's free orders. She worked until the small hours many nights. Her knees hurt. Her back screamed. The boutique kept running. The bills kept getting paid. Maya kept making tea for everyone, kept smiling, kept saying yes, until the day she noticed something was very, very wrong. It was a Tuesday in October. She was doing her VAT reconciliation, a boring task she had been putting off for 2 months. A new client, a wedding planner from Kensington, had requested proper tax invoices. So Maya pulled out her files. She started matching invoices to payments. She made herself a cup of tea and sat down at her grandmother's singer to do the work. The first red flag was small. A payment of £1,850 had been made by Vikram Sharma's P.